Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Sudeep Sharma, founder of Kuber Treasury Solutions and a certified treasury professional or a CTP. Just to let you know, I am starting a new educational series about an important part of modern corporate treasury payment initiation through APIs from the bank's point of view. Okay. Now, words like API, real-time payments, system connections, security, and payment processing can sound complicated, right? My goal in this series is to make them simple and practical. We are going to look at what happens when a corporate treasury team wants its own system, such as an ERP like SAP or Oracle, or treasury management system like what FIS produces, or 𝗫𝗫𝗀, and some of those other ones that are out there, or a payment hub like FIS Tracks, for example, right? To send a payment directly to its bank or banks, right? We will look at both sides. What does corporate treasury do? And what does the bank do after it receives the payment instruction? Okay. For this particular episode, we will focus on three things. First, what API payment initiation means. So, what API payment initiation means. Second, the basic building blocks needed for the connection. And third, the high level journey of the payment from the company to the bank to the payment network and back through status information. Okay. We will save the deeper technical details for the next episode. So before we talk about how API payments work, let's first look at why companies are moving in this direction. Okay. So for many years, companies used more manual and batch-based ways to send payments to their banks. A treasury team might create a payment file, wait for a certain processing time, upload the file, or log into a bank portal and enter or approve the payment, right? Then, after the payment was sent, Treasury might have to wait for a bank or bank to report or send you the statement to see what happened. That is the older model shown on the left side of this slide. Now, look at the right side. Okay. So today, companies are moving toward more real-time and API-based payment processes. So instead of a person moving information from one system to another, the company's system can send information directly to the bank. That means fewer manual steps. It can also mean faster payment processing, faster status updates, and better visibility into what is happening, right? The key idea is simple here. The company's system can talk directly to the bank's system. Okay. The company sends the instruction, the bank receives it, and the bank can send the status information back. So instead of Treasury asking, what happened to my payment? The system can help answer the question automatically, right? Now that we understand why this is changing, let's look at how we will break down the topic. So here, I like to break API payment initiation into three simple parts: define, build, and execute. First is define. We need to understand what API payment initiation is, what it helps Treasury do, and who is responsible for each part of the process. Second is build. This is where we look at what is needed to create a secure connection between the company and the bank. Things like API rules, security, credentials, and system setup belong here. Now, the third is execute. Okay. Once the connection is ready, what happens when Treasury sends a payment, right? How does the bank receive it? How does the bank check it? How does the bank process it? How does the payment move to the right payment network? And how does information come back to Treasury, right? So think of it this way. First, understand what it is, then understand how the connection is built, then understand how the payment moves. With that in mind, let's start with the most basic question. What is API payment initiation? API payment initiation means a company can send a payment instruction directly from its own system to its bank. That system might be an ERP system or a Treasury Management System or a TMS. Instead of a Treasury employee taking the payment information, logging into a bank portal, and entering it again, the system can connect directly. Here is a simple example. Treasury creates a payment inside its company system. The payment is approved. Then the system sends the payment instruction to the bank through an API. The bank receives it and begins checking and processing it. So the API acts like a secure digital connection between the company and the bank. And the connection can work in both directions. Okay. The company sends the payment instruction. The bank can send information back. For example, was the payment received? Was it accepted? Is it still being processed? Was there any problems or issues? That helps Treasury track payments more easily. So the main idea is not just that APIs can make things faster. The bigger idea is that the company and the bank can communicate directly through their systems. Okay. To see why that matters, let's compare this with some of the older ways companies send payments to banks. Now, on the left side, we have more traditional ways of sending payments. One example is a bank portal. Treasury logs in, enters the payment, or uploads a payment file. Another example is a batch file. The company creates a file and sends it to the bank at a certain time. It's scheduled, right? Companies may also use direct host-to-host connections. These methods are still used today and can work very well. APIs simply add another way for the company and a bank to connect or to talk. With an API, the company's system can send the payment directly to the bank when the payment is ready. The company can also receive status information back without someone having to log in to the bank portal and check manually. And because the same payment information can move directly from one system to another, there is less need to re-enter information. That can reduce mistakes. So the value of APIs is not just speed. It is also about less manual work, better connections, better visibility, and stronger control. So why does this matter to a corporate treasurer, CFO, or treasury operations team? So now let's look at the business reasons. There are four main reasons shown on this slide. The first is speed. Businesses are moving faster, right? If a payment is approved and ready, Treasury may want to send it without waiting for the next batch window or manual process. The second reason is efficiency. Every time someone has to type information again, move data between systems, or perform another manual step, it takes more time and creates another chance for an error, right? APIs can help reduce some of those steps. The third reason is better visibility and control. Treasury does not just need to send the payment. Treasury also needs to know what happened after the payment was sent. Was it accepted? Was there any problem or issues? Is it still being processed or processing? Is it still processing? APIs can help provide faster updates. And the fourth reason is better system connection. All right. Treasury may use several systems, such as an ERP, a Treasury Management System, or a TMS, and different banking tools. APIs can help those systems connect more directly with the bank or banks. So the business case is really about four simple things: faster payments, less manual work, better visibility, and better system connections. But for this to work well, the company and the bank need to understand who is responsible for what. On one side, we have corporate treasury. Treasury creates the payment instruction. Treasury makes sure the payment information is correct. Treasury also makes sure the payment has the right approvals before it is sent. The company is also responsible for connecting its ERP or Treasury Management System to the payment process. Then, after the bank sends information back, Treasury can use that information for tracking and reconciliation and reporting. On the other side, we have the bank. The bank provides the API connection. Okay. The bank receives the payment instruction. The bank checks that the request is coming from the right client. The bank checks the payment information. The bank runs its security, fraud, and compliance checks. Then the bank processes the payment and sends it towards the correct payment network. The bank also sends status information back to the corporate client. This is when Treasury receives that status information from the bank. So here, here is the simple way to remember this. Treasury creates and sends the payment instruction. The bank checks it, processes it, routes it, and reports back. And there is a lot happening inside the bank during those steps. We will cover those areas in more detail later in this series. Okay. Now let's put both sides together and follow one payment from beginning to end. Okay. Now look at the slide. This slide shows the full payment journey at a high level. Let's walk through it one step at a time. Step 1, the corporate system. The company's ERP or Treasury Management System creates the payment instruction. The payment information already sits inside the company's system, right? Then comes step 2, the API call. The company's system sends the payment instruction securely to the bank. This is the point where the company's system connects with the bank. Next is step 3, bank checking and processing. Once the bank receives the payment, the bank does not simply send it out right away. The bank first checks the request. It checks who sent it. It checks the payment information. It runs security, fraud, and compliance checks. And if everything is okay, the bank continues processing the payment. There is much more happening in this step than we are talking about today. Okay, and we will go deeper into these bank requirements in the next episodes. Then comes step 4, or routing. The bank sends the payment toward the correct payment network. Okay, depending on the payment, that might be ACH, RTP, SWIFT, or another payment method. And finally, step 5, confirmation. The bank sends information back to Treasury. That information can tell Treasury whether the payment was received, accepted, processed, or if there was a problem, right, or issues. And notice something important. The payment moves forward. At the same time, information about the payment can move back to Treasury, right? So this is not just a one-way process. It is a two-way flow of payment instructions and payment information. Okay? So after looking at the full journey, what is the main point to remember? The biggest takeaway is that API payment initiation creates a much closer connection between corporate treasury and the bank. In the older model, Treasury might send a file or enter a payment and then check later to see what happened. With APIs, the company's system and the bank's system can talk to each other or communicate more directly, right? That can make the process faster. It can reduce manual work, and it can give Treasury better information about what is happening with the payment. But here is something very important. The API does not remove the bank's controls. The bank still needs to check the request. The bank still needs to check the request. The bank still needs to validate the payment. The bank still needs to perform security, fraud, and compliance checks. And the bank still needs to send the payment toward the correct payment network, right? So if you remember one thing from this episode, remember this. An API is not just a faster way to send a payment. It is a secure connection that allows corporate treasury and the bank to communicate or talk to each other directly through their systems. Okay? And that brings us to the perfect question for the next episode. In this first episode, we stayed at the big picture level. We looked at what API payment initiation means. We looked at why companies are interested in it. We looked at the responsibilities of corporate treasury and the bank. And we followed the payment from the company's system to the bank, to the payment network, and back through payment status information. But there is one big question we haven't answered yet. How does a company actually connect its system to a bank's payment API? What does the bank require? What does the company have to provide? How does the bank make sure the connection is secure? How does the bank know that the system connecting to it really belongs to the corporate client? And what has to happen before real payments can begin? That will be the focus of episode 2. The technical blueprint, what banks require for API integration. And in that episode, we will walk through the bank's technical requirements step by step and keep it just as practical and easy to understand. I am 𝗍𝗵𝗀. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.